And I want to thank you all for coming again this evening. Um, I'm Valerie Nye, the Library Director at Santa Fe Community College, and I've been working really closely with my colleague Austin Eichelberger to create this series. Austin is a professor of English and writing here at the Santa Fe Community College, and he's also lead faculty for technical writing, communications, and he's the fiction editor for the Santa Fe Literary Review. Austin and I have really enjoyed planning this series together, and we're just so happy to see it come to fruition and have you all attend our event. Austin, unfortunately, is really sick tonight, so he won't be coming, but I will be reading his welcome, and so I will begin with that. So this is his welcome. This reading is brought to you by the Santa Fe Community College Library and Creative Writing Program, partnered with the creative writing programs at the Institute of American Indian Arts. We're thrilled to have you join us tonight for this special reading event, and we hope you will come back to celebrate the power of words and storytelling at our future events. And I'll put up a screen that has the upcoming events on it in just a moment. Tonight's gathering is an invitation to those who have passion for the written word. If you've ever dreamed of becoming a writer, whether you'd like to craft compelling fiction, pen evocative poetry, or explore the world of nonfiction, the doors of SFCC and IAIA are open, and we are awaiting you inside. We all believe that writing is not only a useful and practical skill, but it's an art form that has the potential to transform the lives and people connected to it across time and space. Both the IAIA and SFCC writing programs nurture aspiring writers, providing them with the tools, guidance, and inspiration to take their creative passions to new heights. The faculty of both institutions are published authors and professional editors, and students at both schools work closely with professors and peers to develop, revise, and publish creative and academic writing in a range of genres and formats. One reason we at SFCC have partnered with IAIA's writing program is because they complement one another. SFCC offers a certificate and associate's degree in English language creative writing, while IAIA is home to a bachelor's degree and a master's degree of the fine arts program, both in writing. Some SFCC creative writing students go on to complete their bachelor's degree at IAIA, giving them the skills and experience to submit manuscripts for publications and pursue careers in editing and writing. And I'll just in a moment put links in the chat to both of these programs. For those of you considering your own creative writing journey, we encourage you to get in touch with us and ask any questions you have about our programs. Whether you're an experienced writer looking to take a single course or a complete novice ready to explore your creative potential, we have classes and resources for you, and we are waiting to hear your voice. So let me share my screen, which will have the links and information in it for the upcoming programs. Our next program in the series will be Manny Loley, and he'll be reading on February 21st at 6 p.m. And then the following Wednesday, he will be doing a creative writing session. And so we have these interlocking activities where there's a reading followed by a writing session. Serena Rodriguez will follow the same pattern. And then the final experience for everybody will be on May 1st, where you will have the opportunity to share something you've written. As Janna and I have talked about today, sharing our work within this format of an hour or less is very difficult. So having an opportunity to read your work on May 1st is something we really look forward to. Okay, and with that, I'm honored once again to introduce you all to Janna Lopez. She's the current Poet Laureate Ambassador and has been speaking and offering workshops in Santa Fe over the last several months in her role as ambassador. You may have seen her already or taken classes with her. We're just thrilled that she has decided to come and engage with us at SFCC. She's a book coach, creative writing teacher with an MFA, and a published author. She provides us with an inspiring start to the series, and we're so happy to have you. If you were unable to attend last week, in a moment, I'll put the link in the chat so you can hear all of Janna's words of wisdom. So we're so fortunate to have her back. Thank you, Janna, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks to Santa Fe Community College and the library, and to Austin, and to you, Val, and to IAIA for recognizing that sometimes we need more than bridges to get us moving. Sometimes we need mountains, sometimes we need water, sometimes we need wind. And that's interchangeable. I think when it comes to writing, one of the things that I teach and talk about, which is important for me to say up front, is for me, writing is all about meeting you where you are right now. Doesn't matter how much you haven't written, how much you've wanted to write and haven't written, or how much you tell yourself you should be writing, could be writing, might be writing, and all of the variables that go with all of the expectations, right? But we just have to meet ourselves where we are. And I think as those who have worked with me, I've got some students on here from the past, and if you've never worked with me, I will probably say I'm one of the most antithetical writing teachers, in that what I teach and talk about was nothing like I was taught about writing and the importance of writing. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. I do believe that writing, for the most part, the way it's taught is all about the product, all about the end result, all about the structure, all about the grammar, all about the form, and on and on and on. And all of those things make me want to take a nap. It's not inspired, that I know. And as I mentioned last week, and I'll say it again for anybody who's on this week that was not on last week, that books like The Artist's Way really set me back. They really destroyed my inspiration. And the reason why is because the expectation is that every day I'm supposed to wake up and do morning pages. And I'm just trying to get coffee, man. I'm just trying to get my day going. And so Monday would come and I'd be like, I'll start Monday. I'm going to do my writing pages. I'd have my fresh journal. I'd have my pencil. I'd have all these things. And then Monday would come and I would look at the blank page and nothing. And I would get frustrated. I'm like, okay, I'll come back to it in 10 minutes. 10 minutes would come. I wouldn't come back to it. In fact, I probably went and scrubbed shower tile or did something that had nothing to do with anything, but anything to avoid the writing. Okay, so I'll start Tuesday. Tuesday came, I'm all ready, the book's out, and nothing. So what happens is the less I wrote, the less I wanted to write. And the less I could find a way to write, the less inspired I got, the worse I felt about myself. And so begins the circus gymnasium of expectations, rejection, blame, responsibility, guilt. And none of those words have anything to do with expression. Nothing. Not one thing. I mean, when writing became a task, and this is the main thing that I want to open up the conversation with today, is that as soon as writing, and always as writing has been in my life as an expectation, I got nothing done. As soon as I started thinking about the idea, and this is what I teach now, is writing as an invitation, that you can invite yourself into the process at any time. You can take the invitation or not. Soon I started thinking about writing, and I started getting inspired to want to write. And, what I'm here for us to do tonight, and what I specifically want to accomplish tonight, is if there's one or two things that we talk about and that I share that starts a seed within you to imagine writing as something other than what it's always been, at least a way into this idea of writing as a relationship, writing as a conversation with yourself, writing as an invitation. And you can start to imagine that writing can produce and feel so differently. It can feel so inspired. Now, I'm not saying that you don't have moments of inspiration, and I'm not saying that all the things that have been taught are wrong. I'm only giving you my own humble, experiential words to contemplate and ultimately to make your own. Because this is about you, and it's about meeting you where you are. And so with an hour, give or take 10 minutes, there's only so much I can cover. Everybody's coming from different places and everybody has different dreams. But what I do know is that everybody has some form of deep, inherent desire to find a way to express themselves. And writing is the way I know that delivers the goods for me every time, but it wasn't always that way. I have struggled. I have said all the terrible things to myself. I've played all the mind games. And the thing that I've learned from finishing my first book, which was a memoir, it took 4 years, was that writing and creativity could not be beaten into submission. As much as I told myself, I'm going to get 5,000 words done today, I'm going to get 2 pages done today, I'm going to finish a chapter. It's not that discipline isn't important. And it's not that we don't need some form of like goals or guidelines for ourselves. But if that's always the way it's been, and you really have a desire to create and express and explore fiction or memoir or poetry, or whatever it is that you're desiring to write, to start a book, to finish a book, whatever it is, to me, it's all the same. It's the human part of us that has the desire to be an expression from within, from deep within. And then the writing creates this symbiotic way of relating and expressing and creating and imagining and dreaming. And from that, beautiful things, beautiful insights, beautiful forms of that human expression start to make way. So what I'd like, and I told this on the first time, and it's going to be true in the second time, is I'm closing the chat because I will read it. But what I want you, I'll get distracted. But what I'd like you to do is to write in the chat, because I'm going to read these later and I'm going to peek in when I'm going to have you write some things, is if you could get one thing out of tonight that would be most helpful to you, whatever it is, what would that be? And put it in the chat. And if you want to share the one place you're stuck, if you want to share your one dream, if you want to share a logistical tip on how to, wherever you are is where you are. And that's what interests me, is where are the writers in the room in terms of your hopes, dreams, challenges, stuck points. So if you could get one thing, and I'm lying, I'm going to look right now. So Jerry would like an idea for a new poem. Val says a seed of inspiration that I want to return to and continue working. Okay, Val, that's an interesting thing. So let's see. Ruth says being able to accept whatever I write and give myself grace to write more. That is a beautiful thing to aspire to. That is really a beautiful thing. And that's a very important part of the process for me, is just being with what I'm writing and allowance, right? Just allowance. Kelly, I always get inspiration in a room of writers. Yes. Berta, staying with my desire and dream to write. Berta, we're going to have to keep you there. Just keep thinking that beautiful blue shirt of yours. That is a dream. How to blend my family story blended with our country's story, history. History. Okay, so what I want you to do is, I'm going to open up, I think, because I was originally invited to share from my poetry collection that just came out. Here it is. It's called Such Is. And I have in this book, I want to say about 15 or so poems. I designed the book. They're my photos. And for me, this was a collection of poems that relate to the themes I write the most about, at least this juncture of my life. And that is grief, love, and belonging. I write about these so much so, and part of it is because this is my own experience, is that I believe life encompasses really only two primary experiences, and everything that we experience is an iteration of these two things, and that's grief and love. And I think depending on where we are in life, if we're in grief in relationship to something, or if we are in love in relationship to something, that we're sort of navigating our way around these. And the interesting thing is that grief and love, in my own opinion, are the only two human experiences that are nearly impossible to name. Meaning, we cannot intellectualize what the heart knows. We can't intellectualize through forms of words what the heart is feeling and experiencing. It's very hard. So I think in creating my own sense of understanding and connection and humanness to myself, I write about these issues a lot. So I will start with a poem from the collection. I read this one last time, but I'm going to read it again because it's the name of my book. And it's called Such Is. And if you want to write notes as I'm reading this about words you like or phrases you like or things that are questionable to you, this is one way how you can invite yourself into your own poem or into your own writing, is using other people's work. And I often read other people's poetry, and while I'm reading it, I'll take notes, and I will invite myself into writing about what the questions are. So this is a way to get yourself to start writing, is to be in response to other people's writing. Okay, the poem Such Is. On a sleeve of morning sun, stillness summoned into question. Your eyes have been widened to a realm of another day. A photo album. Remember those? Cracked adhesive pages enraptured by crinkled plastic sleeves. Such measureless protectors no longer exist. You and me at river's edge. You and me, a heartbeat. You and me, an inferno star. Such repositories for flashbulb photos are buried in boxes. Tomb closets. Yes, photo album euphoria. Such is a nostalgic catacomb. So for your own invitation, these are what I call, thank you, Jerry, for the little hand clap. So I don't call them prompts. prompts infers you have to do something. And once you have to do something, you're into expectation land. Not in my world. So I call them invitations. So my first invitation for you is just to write the words such is, and then whatever comes. So take a few minutes, use such is as your invitation, and see what starts to percolate from those two words. And I suggest writing with pen and paper if you have one. No worries, David, you're here. And that's great. We're just writing from the invitation of the words such is. So if you get an invitation and you find yourself contemplating, I don't know what to do with this, one thing I suggest to get yourself writing is to put the words down and say, I don't know what this means, such as, I don't know what this means, such as, I'm still trying to figure out what this means, such is, like just allow yourself to be stuck and to put that on the page as you're writing as a question. What is such as? As a curiosity, such as might be. And then from there, you can allow yourself into this conversation. Okay, so I wish we had more time, always famous last words. But the idea is that once you start to invite yourself into this conversation, usually what happens is it will lead to more questions or observations or curiosities. And so those are three things that I always suggest to writers who are looking to start or getting back to a writing thing, a writing way. And I saw Zoe had written to restart my writing, got completely sidetracked in 2023. So I understand that dilemma. And what I hope for is that writing isn't the thing that we have to get to, that it's something separate from who we are, and that it's not this big thing in an ivory tower that needs nothing but time and space and a room with a view, right? And I feel like we separate ourselves from the idea of expression being the luxury, which is then associated to time, which is then where we put ourselves last. Most people will put themselves last anyway. Think about from the time that you wake up, you give away every ounce of your time to your job, to your kids, to your, responsibilities, things that you have to do and get done, and I get it. And what I want is for people to start realizing, at least a little bit, that it's not the luxury. Expression is not a luxury based on time, because everybody wants more time. And guess what? We're not getting more time. This is it. So to start to weave the idea of expression and conversation as part of you, not separate from, as the luxuriating sort of pontificating reflection that you need these huge swaths of time. So it means that we have to reimagine and reconnect with this idea of writing as a form of us, writing as a form of our breath, our air, our oxygen mask. And so allowing yourself 5 minutes in the morning with coffee or tea. We always have 5 minutes in the morning, right? When you're driving in your car, you can chat, speak into your phone. I've written so many poems on this thing. You're going to be stuck in a car at some point. And not being so hard on yourself. Not being so hard on yourself that you should be doing something different, because if you could be doing something different, you would be doing something different. So it's about reimagining what it is you would like to be doing and how you're going to be doing it. The energy that we spend thinking about writing, right? We talk about how we think about writing. It's all that energy that goes into that grates away at the beautiful, natural, creative, unique desire and expression that you already have, that you're already part of, that you're already in with yourself. Nobody knows your experience better than you. Nobody understands your humanness better than you. So the things that stop us, comparison. How many of you compare yourselves to other writers in terms of quality or quantity? I'm just going to look around. Anybody do that? Compare themselves? Okay. Yes. There's a few of you. All right. And then how many of you feel like what you have to say isn't worth anything? Has no value. Like, what do I have to say? I used to think people that wrote memoirs had done something, seen something, cured something, amassed something, changed something, like it had to be this big, huge thing. Why would anybody care what I have to say, right? So that's another thing that stops us is comparison, worth, judgment. The other one I get is grammar. I don't know how to structure this thing. I got red pen nightmares lingering. And to me, that's just the saddest thing, because our human experience right now, our need to connect, our need for compassion, our need for understanding, and our need to share our stories is more than ever. So the suppression of that robs us, robs you, robs the world of this beautiful piece of expression that could maybe even make one person's day better. And I often think about, what if Dr. Seuss thought his writing was stupid? What if he thought Green Eggs and Ham was dumb and nobody would read it, He changed the entire trajectory of how children engage with illustration, storytelling, reading, writing. So not that I aspire to be the next Dr. Seuss, but I got to tell you, the things that I have written that have made a difference in somebody's life or somebody's day, it's enough for me, because it made a difference to me. And that's the only audience that matters. It made a difference to me. So I don't want you to feel as if what it is that you've got, your gifts, to be stifled because of all of these projected and protected ways of talking yourself into or out of what you think you have to do. Does that make sense? Looking for the nods. I see Cheryl nodding. Yes. I see Jerry with the thumbs up. So, excellent. So what I'm going to do is I'll read another poem and then I'm going to have you write again. All right, let's go to okay, I love this poem. I do. I love this poem. And I often like my poems. And, I know there will be people that don't understand it or don't like my work, and that's fine. There will be people who love it and relate, and that's good too. But the writing of this poem gave me everything I needed in the moment. And it relates to grief. Okay. Candle. Forgive the incidental curtsy, but death is everywhere. Rattling of ballet slippers, toe tapped upon bones. We do this delicate dance of losing ourselves while everything around us dissolves off twine and exiled starlight. Since when did death become so polite and ubiquitous? Did the carousel of dust follow my way towards home? Where is warmth of candlelight? Forgive the darkened seashell, but a battered heart could use a sliver brush of candlelight. You know that ray, silver illumination that somehow effuses vital, shimmering respite. So with this poem, it basically came to me with the image of ballet slippers dancing on bones. I don't know why, but well, actually, I do know why. That is not true. I was thinking about how when somebody dies, we toe tap our way around what to say, what not to say, thoughts and prayers. We come up with these very generic things. And so I was thinking, when did death become so polite, right? Like, when did we sort of avoid the depth of heartbreak and a darkened seashell, like that's the vision for me. I once saw a video of a woman who was grieving in like some island off the Sicilian coast or something in Italy. And she threw herself on the casket and she was bawling. And that image always stuck with me because, it was like she was throwing herself into the grief. And we just don't really do that in this culture. And I know there's lots of different ways that people grieve, but I feel like grief is a big topic for us right now because we came out of COVID with these waves of grief. We were thrown into these images of war and politics around the world. And, there's just so much happening. And I think grief is an important part of how we learn to, I don't know, embrace that part of us that's human, right? That's human. So I think it's important to write about it and talk about it. So that's why I write about it so much. Does anybody, I would love to take a question right now. If anybody has a question, this would be a good place for a question right now, because I'm talking a lot and I wish we had more time to share, but I also want to be mindful of your time and what you would like to get out of it. So if anybody has a very quick question, I would be happy to answer a question. Okay, so Elizabeth, I guess what you're asking is, how do you transfer what you're saying to the page? Because you get, you think about grammar. And so what I want to tell you is that writing to me happens in 4 forms: how we think, how we speak, how we write, and how we receive information. Because as we're receiving other people's work and as we're reading other people's work, we're sort of responding in a way. So that is an issue. Like when you think what you want to write and how to get it on the page. So one thing I recommend is, if you feel your verbal skills are more engaging, I would try to start transcribing either on your computer or in your phone. And then when you have a chance to read how it is on the page, you can go back and fix things if you like. But I feel like being honest in your expression and that it does transfer on the page, that was something that I got a lot of feedback on in my first book. Was people always said, I could hear your voice. I could hear you talking. And so don't worry about expressing your voice in your writing as you naturally express yourself. If you're trying to be something you're not on the page, if you're trying to sound like Ernest Hemingway, Raymond Carver, or whoever you're reading, it's not going to sound like you. It's not going to sound like you, and you will be disappointed that you didn't fully express yourself. I mean, maybe not totally, but I know I do. I know if I'm trying to write for a specific outcome or specific audience, and I'm not really being honest with myself, I don't get as much out of the writing. That's for sure. That's for sure. And here's what I want to say, because you're having a side conversation about grammar, which is great because it's a big consideration in the writing world. What I want you to know is this: when it comes to writing, you have total freedom. Have total freedom. Don't edit yourself by way of form or structure or grammar or punctuation. Write whatever you feel, write what you want to express. You can always choose to edit later, and you can always choose to share later. But those are not the business of the writing, because that is one thing. If you're worried about the grammar and where it's going and the punctuation and the structure, you will stifle exactly whatever it is that's trying to come up and be expressed because you're worried about that. I know many people edit as they're writing, and I'm telling you, if you can, try to not do that. It may drive you crazy and it may be uncomfortable at first, but we're trying to help you open up and unlearn what you've learned so that you can actually write, and trust that the writing has nothing to do with the editing. The writing has nothing to do with the sharing. And those are 2 very distinct, separate elements that you can decide and make those choices after you've written. Does that make sense? Does that feel freeing at all? I'm kind of looking. Does that help? Cheryl's nodding yes. Doesn't mean that I don't care about those things. It just means that I know they don't belong in my expression. Those are forms of function. And to me, writing is not a form of function. Writing is a conversation. Writing is a relationship. Writing is a discovery. Writing is an invitation And in those things, form and function are not part of the mix. I'm happy to hear that, David. Thank you. And, this is one of the things that is hardest for people to get around because we've been indoctrinated year after year after year after year after year after year. Imagine how many layers are in our brains that we've been taught over and over and over again, thousands of moments in our life about form and structure. And it kills expression. It really does. So it's like, imagine everything that you know about writing is a big rubber band ball, and you have to sit there and peel off one false belief, one expectation, one lesson, one thing you've learned, one red pen mark, one friend you showed it to who criticized your work, one time that you let yourself down, one time, all of these things we have to peel one rubber band at a time. That's the work of the writer, in my opinion, is learning how to unlearn what you've learned so you can actually write. That is where the freedom is. This is about expression. It's about freedom. It's about joy. It's about discovery. It's about finding that thing that sparks you and allowing it without telling it what to be or what to do. So what I'd like you to do, yes, things I write come through you. That's true. That's the way it is for me too. That's totally how it is for me. They always come through me. And that's part of the conversation, is just showing up and letting them be and writing them down. So what I'd like you to write now, and I'm going to give you just a couple minutes because we still have a few more things, but I would like you just to write, writing freedom is, and then whatever comes. Writing freedom is, and whatever comes. Okay. So if you would like to share in the chat what you came up with for what writing freedom is, I would love to read it later. I promise you, I read each and every comment, and it means a lot to me to kind of get a sense of that dream and that vision for writing. I have had total writing freedom. I know what it feels like, and I also know what it doesn't feel like. And I know what it feels like to feel stuck. I know what it feels like to be hard on myself. I know what it feels like to feel like the idiot that can't get myself going. I know what it's like to have the disparity between the dream that is so organic and alive and the reality of being stuck and unable to achieve what it is that I'm trying to express because of all of the blockades that I have put up for myself. And what's interesting is that writing is the one thing you have available to you at any time, anywhere, for any reason. And yet it's the one thing that we deprive ourselves from connecting with or doing because of the mental gymnasiums that we've constructed that keep us locked up. And the image that I have when I imagine my writing world and the difference between the place within me, my deep expression, where my writing now comes from, and the place where the writing used to come from or tried to come from, it reminds me of Get Smart, when the doors slammed, Maxwell Smart would have to go through at the beginning of the show, and it was just the gate and the thing, the bars and all these things. Exactly. And that's where I would just be like, and so no wonder we have been conditioned. Writing is the one thing we need to do to survive for our jobs, our professional lives. And the people who actually struggle the most are the journalists, the teachers, the editors, the lawyers, the people that have to write for a living. By the time they get to me and we're talking, they hate words. They don't know what to do with them because they're so in a lane of having to do it for a reason. Most writers I know, most journalists I know, most journalists are the most deprived because they've lost their creative spark because they have to write every day. I used to own a magazine for 10 years. The last thing I wanted to do was write. So we're going to read one more poem. And if you have comments, I'm going to read your comments. So I'm going to read one more poem. If you're feeling a little bit more free than this when we first started on the call, a little more inspired, have a little more hope, just drop a 1 in the chat. So I can get a sense of that while I'm bringing up my next poem. If you even feel just a little freer. Good. I'm glad, Cheryl. I'm happy to hear that. Good, Val. Annabella, I definitely want to have a conversation with you. And I wonder if you agree with what I said about as a journalist, if you feel sometimes separate from your creativity. You can, yes, you do. I know. And so, when you write for a living, like journalism, it just kills the creativity. So, All right, look at all these ones. Good. I'm glad, Julio. I'm glad you are feeling a little more free. That means a lot to me. Okay, so back to the poem sharing. See, I get sidetracked. Oh, I wish I could hang out with you all night long. This is my favorite thing in the world to do, is to talk about how to help you find your inspiration. It really is my favorite thing to do. And so this poem is for you. This poem is for you. Feel free to take notes. And hey, Val, maybe we can send this poem out, the poems that I read out tomorrow in the Zoom link. I'll make sure you guys all get this poem if you want it. Okay. Fertility. Now, one thing is for poetry, one way to get into poetry as a starting point, which is was always very elusive to me, and I always felt like an idiot reading poetry, even though I always wrote poetry, is use the title as an entry point. Titles are very telling in poetry. So start with the title. Just a little tip. Okay, fertility. Fertility is a chore, a master of disguises and torn time. To ask one to birth and rebirth again and again and again is inferring that inevitably we must grieve. This is not a request to take on like a feather. This is not as simple as whipped cream to slather across a pumpkin pie's horizon. We are taking our pain and asking, no, ensuring that those wounds will be sliced open for more salt, more breakage, more innocence to be rolled dice upon life's green flannel table of chance. Fertility is a responsibility. If we somehow make the rebirth designation and agree, we will try and love again, grow again, seek again, dream again, become again. We have no choice but to honor the lonely and sometimes desolate humanness that comes with the package. Why, you might ask yourself, why do I step forward onto pale verdant grass with shy roots on a cloudy day during drought? Why must this flow of life, this unquenchable desire to permeate pain, longing, and flirtations with destiny, insist that I regenerate? Inevitability of self, inevitability of solitude, inevitability of a love only a broken heart can propagate. So that's what we put ourselves with writing. We're if we want that gift of fertility and that love and that possibility, got to put ourselves in that space. But I have to tell you, I promise you that just because your writing has been a certain way in the past, because you've struggled with certain things in the past, because you've approached writing only in a certain way at a certain time for all these years in a very specific form and function, it doesn't mean that is the way it will be from this point forward. You have the ability to express, you have the freedom, you have inspiration is everywhere, invitations are everywhere. So where you are is with you and you. It's between you and yourself, not the rest of the world, not the red pens, not the teachers, not the critics, not the friend that you showed your tender little manuscript to, who tore it apart because they had to tell you all the reasons why they would have done it so much better, even though they've never written anything either. And then what happens? That little tiny spark, the bucket of water. And then we're done. We go back into hiding. We go back underneath the soil. But if you find yourself underneath the soil, start digging, start moving around, start chewing on that dirt. If you're going to be there, then you eat that dirt and you love it. Enjoy it, the grit, the earth, the possibility, the connection to the land, the ancestors, the history, time, possibility, tilling the soil for something new. And that's an image, tilling soil with your teeth. There's a poem. That's an image. So I believe each and every person has this moment and this capacity and this desire, and it's just helping you find a way to navigate around the mental stuff that has kept you hidden. And do not keep yourself hidden. This world is not long for hidden people right now. We need connection. We need humanness. We need to be seen. We need to be heard. We need to be understood. Writing is it. This is it. There is no other form of expression that connects people more deeply, in my humble opinion, than words, stories, humanness, and experience. And you don't know, you can't project that your words are going to mean something to somebody or they're not going to mean something to somebody. That's not for you to decide, because I guarantee it, people are going to love your work and they're not going to love your work. Both are true. So let that go. Let that go. It's a given. It is a given. So what I'd like you to write right now is one message that you want yourself to remember and have, that when you're feeling lost or disconnected or unclear or unable to ignite your inspiration, that you go back and you read this message to yourself. You remember you are there and you are here and you can give yourself to yourself in your words. So I would like you to write something that you will look at in that moment when it happens, because it will. Does anybody want to share their message? We have a few minutes. I'm not going to keep people much longer, but does anybody want to share the message to themselves? What, do not keep yourself hidden. Yeah, Zoe, do not keep yourself hidden. Talk to me about this. Come on. Tell me what you know. Don't keep yourself hidden. What's that about?
Oh, it's just something usually just do. You know, I write a lot, but don't go the next step to engage with others.
What are you afraid of?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we don't know. It
Yeah.
could be rejection, it could be judgment, it could be value, validation, worth, it could be any one of those things. Were you from a big family, a bigger family?
Not necessarily. I mean, I even have like a writing group that I enjoy quite a lot. It's just I don't, don't do the work to do the publishing and all that, or people go to open mics. I don't do that, stuff like that. But
Yeah, don't keep yourself. I mean, it's easy for me to say, don't do this, don't do that. Invite yourself into being less hidden. How's that? Because then it's not an expectation, it's an invitation. So you can say, I invite myself to be less hidden. You can take it or not. Then there's no pressure. Okay. And I love that Greg got eat the dirt. I've never had that image come to me. You are with me first in real time. And I think it says everything. So I'm glad, Greg, that you are going to take eat the dirt, because I think I will too. I like that. I put in the chat, and I want to hear one or two more. I have a monthly class. It's the last Monday of the month, and it's 90 minutes, and we have a chance to write and dive in deep and reflect. And it's an amazing group. There's about 20 people. That's the first link. You're welcome to join that class. It's once a month on a Monday. So, and the second link is for my poetry collection, if you're interested. But I would love to have you come and write with me, and I can give you more time, more attention, more guidance. And yeah. Any other messages that anybody's going to take away? So I saw Julio wrote something up here. I was going to see what you said. Something you wrote stood out to me. Julio, do you want to share with me what you put? Oh, right there. Message to self. Take nap and dream. I like that. Yes. Dreaming is awesome. Any other messages that you've given yourselves? Jackie, what you got? You're muted. Sorry. Jackie, you're muted. What, Jackie? Whatever it was good. I did not hear what you said.
I know you didn't. How's
Okay,
that?
go for it. Try it again.
Yeah, be free to express. Be a gift to be. That everyone will like what I write. Don't worry about what they think. Remember, I'm writing for me, an audience of one.
Okay, excellent. I love it. All right, Bonnie, what about you? I noticed you've been taking some good notes.
I've been writing furiously.
I've noticed you were taking some good notes.
Yeah. When I'm feeling lost, remember standing on the cliff and feeling the power of standing still.
Ooh, I like that. Standing still gives you all of the stuff that you need just to receive it. I got it. Perfect. That is really, really good. I will use that at some point for myself in my own thinking. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. And what about you, Cheryl?
I just put, I'm here and I'm ready.
Okay, excellent. Hashtag winning. All right, Val, what about you? What is the note for yourself that you gave yourself?
My note is just start writing. Do not judge. No one has to see it. Writing now will move you toward the next place you need to be.
Yeah, and I will amend that a little bit so that writing allows you to invite yourself to the next place you want to be. Right? It's all about the invitation. So even those small things within our languaging, no have tos, need to, shoulds, coulds, woulds, it's just invite, allow, process, create, express. And the languaging makes a big difference in how we relate to the relationship of writing that we're cultivating. It's no longer the thing that's out here, it's part of. And so as a relationship, you can talk to yourself with kindness, grace, love, curiosity, inspiration. Yes. Does anybody else have any messages they want to share? David, I see you. You're jumping in. I know it. I feel it.
Certainly, I'll share. What I wrote was, you've come so far. The only death that matters now is the road ahead. Throw yourself mercilessly upon that gravel every day and learn how to care for your words.
Oh, I love that. Yes, that gravel, boy. That gravel is the gift and the curse and all of it. It's the lover and it's the boss and it's the best friend.
Thank you, Janna.
Yes, care for your words. You absolutely care for your words. Yes, really great. Well, if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Anything about process, logistics, hope streams, anything I talked about that wasn't clear? Anything at all?
This is Berta. For me, writing has usually been a struggle. And it's something that I've done since I was very young, wanted to be a writer, wanted to write, written, but it's always kind of like a fight to the death. There are all these other things that come ahead of my ability to sit with myself and with the page. So I'm constantly looking for a way to really stay engaged, once I get started.
Two things I think would be helpful. Did you get that booklet from last week?
Yes. Did
you have a chance to look at it?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay, so I think, and for anybody who did not get the booklet, I'll make sure that you get it again. But there are things in there that might be helpful to start to recognize where it is you get stuck or why you procrastinate. If it's a fight to the death every time or most times, unless you figure out what it is that's operating the system underneath, you're going to keep coming up against those same barriers. So once you can identify if you're stuck in your head, if you're stuck in your heart, if you're stuck in your spirit, if you're stuck in the overwhelm, the logistics, the tactical, the fight to the death will remain. So it's about letting loose and releasing the energy around what the fight to the death feels it's gaining by staying present. So diffusing that is the first step. The second step is then trying to allow the invitations that are around you to present themselves. Everything is an invitation. You can pick a book off that shelf that's behind you and open a page and find a sentence. There's an invitation. You can go outside and take a look and just observe what's going on in the weather or the mood or the trees or the birds. Those are invitations. You can open your refrigerator, pick out a food item, sit it next to you, and write about whatever you want to write. It can be a character in a play, it can be a real thing, it can create a memory. You can allow that invitation to become anything you want. So it's a two-step process for you, I believe. The first being really asking yourself where the fight to the death is living, because it's got a stake in there and it's holding on like Charlton Heston from my cold dead hands. It doesn't want to let go. But once you start to ask yourself where this is and living within you and what's really holding you up, it starts to diffuse that energy that will dissipate and open things. And then on the front end to greet yourself is the idea of the invitation. Everything is an invitation. So I feel like if you start to work on those two places, or even invite yourself into being curious about those two places, you will be engaged.
Thank you. I will keep that in mind. And I do have a memory from when I was like 4 or 5 that I always go back to. So thank you for.
And there's nothing wrong with you. It just is embedded because it's embedded. And then it doesn't mean because it's been embedded that it will remain embedded or it will be embedded moving forward. Because once Oz parts the curtains and we see the big bad voice, it's just a dweeby little man trying to make himself sound better, be more, be bigger, and to intimidate you. And behind the curtain's really nothing. So it's holding on to the idea of the curtain that keeps us stuck, the fear, the uncertainty, the doubt. So I feel like if you start to really investigate that a little bit, be curious, write about it. What is keeping me stuck? And that booklet has the places where most people get stuck. See if any of them make sense for you. And just really start imagining that everything is an invitation and go with the inspiration in the moment.
Well, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions, comments, stuck points? Anything I can help with? This is it. I'm here. Got to vocalize. This is part of your process.
How do we get in touch with you?
Okay, very good. So here we go. I'll put in my website, and I do teach classes a lot online. I do one-on-ones in person. And I will put the information for the monthly class yet again. And there's nothing that we've gone through together as expressionists or as writers that seems unbelievable or unfathomable or irreparable. It's just relearning and reconnecting and allowing yourself to be part of your own conversation. And if something's keeping you, then we can sleuth it and figure out what it is. So I'll make sure that you get the poems from tonight. And then I did have an 8-page booklet around like procrastination and why people get stuck that we distributed last time. And you'll get it again if you were on last time, but some of you were not on last time. So anybody else have anything? You're welcome, Laurel. You're welcome, David. I really loved your comments. I'm looking forward to going back and reading some of what you shared. I just glanced at it, and I think you're probably a brilliant writer. I'm sure of it. Thanks, Raj. You'll come to the next library thing maybe too. Be nice to see you again. All right, so hold on to your notes to yourself. I hope to hear that those notes have helped you be inspired. This is about writing generation. So just keep inviting yourself, keep creating. You're welcome, Jerry. You're welcome, Berta.
Well, thank you, Janna. This invitation has been wonderful, and I really like the reframing of writing as an invitation. It seems like both a gentle request and something you shouldn't decline. So the concept is really helpful, I think, to me, and I know to many of those of us who are here tonight. So thank you so much for all you have shared. And I will be getting out an email with the things that Janna has mentioned, as well as a link for tonight's session. And I will also be sending you all information about the upcoming writing generation series that we're going to continue with in February. So thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.